Guy who Browns fans have kind of connected him to is Hall of Famer Joe Thomas. Thomas spent his entire career with the Browns, and they really weren't able to help him get even to the playoffs. He was asked about the Myles Garrett trade request. This from ESPN Cleveland.
They're only going to get better value if it comes to the point where they have to trade him. If they've already said, we're not going to trade him, it doesn't matter if it's 2 first-round picks. They're kind of putting their line in the sand saying, hey, everybody knows there's a value for everybody. I mean, if somebody came today and said 4 first-round picks, it'd probably be a done deal. But you got to understand, even Patrick Mahomes, they would trade him for 10 first-round picks. Like, there's a price on everybody. We just got to explore and figure out what it is.
True.
So the fact
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that, like, they've said that they're not going to trade Myles. Yeah, they don't want to trade Myles, but if he says, I'm not going to play unless you trade me, they better have created the best market possible to get the most value from him, because whether he's here or somewhere else, he's a tremendously valuable asset for.
And Damon, he did not say he wouldn't play here today when Rich Eisen followed up with the question. So it's interesting. I know you wrote an article before Garrett's trade request. Do you think the Browns have kind of gone all in on a rebuild? Have they committed to a rebuild?
I'm not sure if they've, in their minds, if they think it's a rebuild, but I think that obviously with Myles wanting out now, I think that what the plan that was presented to him and kind of reflected in his comments there with Rich Eisen today as well, looks like that, in his opinion, it's more of a rebuild than he wants to wade through. And, it's interesting. It certainly seems like he is committed to getting out of Cleveland, even though he did not say that, he wouldn't play if he was forced to. But right now we're just kind of in the middle of a muddy PR game going on from both sides. I think the Browns certainly probably don't want to make a trade. The thing that's interesting to me is Myles at the end of the season. If you watch the last clip of the Hard Knocks where the Browns were actually featured in the show, it was focused on Myles Garrett and kind of him exiting that day, the last day of the season as they're cleaning out the lockers and that kind of stuff. And he seemed like he was kind of on board at that point to come back. So, it's really interesting to me what has taken place over the last couple of weeks, because I think that, obviously the Browns have known for at least a couple of weeks here. And the only thing that I can really think of is that, a moment that happened was, the hiring of Tommy Rees. And I don't know if, that satisfied Myles. But, that's a question that I certainly have. And I would like to have somebody ask him that. But it's clear that he just isn't, in favor of the plan that they presented to him. And it's going to be, a situation to watch over the next few weeks until March.
Yeah, you got to do some roster building, and you're constricted by the Deshaun Watson contract. So you're going to have to find a way to renegotiate that. And if you renegotiate that, that pushes the cap hit back even further. That's why they can't really trade him before June 1st. It's another $36 million dead cap hit on top of the Deshaun Watson dead cap. Every time you renegotiate and push things into the future, it comes back when you trade them as a dead cap hit. So that's kind of very simplistic, but think in terms of that if you're a fan, because that's what's happening. Andrew Berry has some pressure on him. He's got to build some veterans. He's got to go out and get some veterans that Myles Garrett says, I see where you're going with this at this point. I think.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think there's a lot of pressure on Andrew Berry, and maybe that's Myles' intention here with putting in the trade request is, he wants to hold their feet to the fire here in free agency and see what they can do. And, I think maybe he would possibly evaluate what they do over the first couple of days of free agency and see if there's any kind of, plan there that kind of works for him. But we will certainly see and find out soon enough. But, it'll be interesting to see what happens. if they do trade him, they would have to make a lot of things work, or adjust a lot of things, and that picture isn't too pretty for the Browns for next season. Effectively, it's a negative. They'd be, negative 16 million on the cap if they trade Garrett. Um, but they would have to do other things like restructure players or possibly even cut guys, veterans on the team. So it's certainly something to watch moving forward.
Yeah, they have to become cap compliant, I believe is the term that they use.